Turning out of the, first one is to open up this next one, which is our regularly scheduled Monday meeting on September 25th, 2017. Right. So, let's see. Go ahead and motion to approve the warrants in the minutes. Paul?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following warrants. First, we have Big Ass Fan Solutions. Now, Steve, I've got a question before we even start. It says $1,800. Is that just the installation of that fan? Or does it include the fan, the problem, the motor, whatever it was?
Well, the motor was covered under warranty, the $1,800
Okay, so that was
was...
just installation. You said he climbed the ladder and
Yes,
did it? It's like
yes.
an hour's work, 2 hours' work?
I don't think he was there an hour.
An hour, less than an hour for $1,800. That, to me, seems unacceptable, but
No vote.
I understand it's a company and they gotta get company fees, but that seems excessive. So anyhow, continuing on, Bigelow Electric, for the semi-annual battery and generator services, $1,675. And again, Bigelow Electric for repairs that were made, $2,363.40. A check to Casella for hazardous waste collection, $60. And Carlson Systems for North Sturbridge Pump Station, $6,354.06. And lastly, MPC Services, air conditioner check for the lab, the office, $153.75. That's it.
Second. For discussion?
Well, why don't you discuss that $1,800?
Yeah, again, the thing is that needs to get put off the side, and we should ask our administrator to get a better explanation of the time put in at the plant.
Did they have a breakdown on it or anything, or is just?
No, I looked at the thing, it just said, you know.
It was, what originally had been described, and we looked at, and Keith and I looked at, was bringing those hoist man lifts type situations in, and that's what it was expected to be. That's what we were told the day that he came in. He came in with a ladder that's similar to those that has multiple uses. Buy him for $100 and $200, $600 max. Came in, it had a Y at the bottom, opened up, extended all the way up to where the fan motor was. He put the fan motor on his back, climbed up, took the other one off, hung it on the ladder. He took the one off his back. He was up there for after a quarter of an hour. And took the old one, came down the ladder, dismantled, collapsed the ladder, was gone.
So I believe we should write the company and ask for an explanation based on your observation this time spent there, where the $1,800 come. Because that was under warranty.
Yes, the warranty was on the parts.
I understand
not
that,
on the labor.
right, but not the labor.
And is it a manufactured, like who was the gentleman we hired?
The manufacturer sent the rep in. He's the same
Okay.
team that actually put the fans up.
Okay.
He, a woman came in and put the fans up over 3 or 5 days.
Did they, excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
did they use staging when they put them up?
Yeah, we did.
It was rather elaborate,
Yes, it was.
and that's what you were expecting when you got the quote of $1,800.
The questions we were asked were, give us aisle dimensions. Do you have a lift to do that? Do you have some, which we didn't.
Okay.
So,
Was there any, Keith's the safety officer in that plant. Was there any violations or anything? Everything was compliant?
It was roped off when he was up there?
I wasn't there during the entire operation, but Keith said it was done, it was safe, and it was complete. So,
Yeah. So I suggest that we pull that bill, and I have no other questions on any others.
Just get a breakdown on it or further explanation.
that's fine.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second to approve the warrants as read,
Except for the
except for the solutions. Yep. the fan. A motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of September 11th, 2017.
Second for discussion. It's September 11th.
I see this real quick.
Yeah, I guess Norma, during that meeting, you were asked to look up some information. I question
Payment of,
the minutes. Page 2, Lemansky questioned Mr. Pecos' salary. He believed Exxon would be taking care of this.
We did not find anything, I called the,
Okay, well, you didn't find anything. And then I believe Ms. Craver was in the audience then, and Ms. Craver came up and said that, that it was never intended for any of the monies from the ExxonMobil to go and pay for that? You recall that being said last week? Yes?
you want that added to it?
No, I'm way beyond that. What you may not have had in the minutes, but in relationship to emails relative to the hiring of Mr. Pecos, because
Oh,
we're talking about the minutes. What do you want to do? Just not accept them and then talk about this later?
no, but is this ever in relationship to what was said and what wasn't said?
Yes.
I'll bring up any talk that anybody wants to talk about, but does this have any relation to what's going on?
What was asked was for our secretary to try to find some information on that through the minutes. And I agree with you, there's nothing in the minutes.
No, I didn't find any.
Okay.
I actually Googled it on our town website.
Okay, but I've got-
Mary too, and she doesn't recall that in any of her meetings.
Okay. But, so what I have, Mr. Chairman, I can cut right to the chase and go to the actual settlement agreement, which says, number 3, funding of the water superintendent. ExxonMobil shall contribute $250,000 towards Charlton's retention of a water superintendent. Payment shall be made to Charlton within 60 days after the date of which the agreement has been executed.
Okay.
Okay, have we gotten anything about money? What Ms. Graves said at the meeting was we had no money coming for what we had spent with Mr. Pecos, which I believe was somewhere around $78,000. So what happens is our account right now is deficient by $78,000 to where it should have been replenished by monies from ExxonMobil, because that's why we, at least in my eyes, that's why we hired this guy. And also, as I have emails that actually point out the same, which this was on May 19th. Please look at the ExxonMobil contract as I went to turn that right around so that we can get the funding. Until then, please review the following accounts for funding for Kevin. And this was an email from Robin to the entire board back in May. So the whole point is,
May of this year?
this is May of 16.
No, okay.
May of 16, is that the whole purpose of when we hired Mr. Pecos is that he was going to come in and he was going to set up our office to be prepared for being
Consecutive water
a
system.
consecutive
Yep.
water system. So, and then also I've got another email, which again, came from Ms. Craver. This will also give us some funds to pay Mr. Pecos until the Exxon check clears. So, we've yet to receive any monies from the Exxon money that's already in the coffers here in the town of Charlton. And as the, I believe also there was a newspaper press release, which included the $250,000 to fund the water superintendent, to get a viable water department up and running. That was part of the press release of April 12, 2016. So we should be, or if we haven't, we need to put in the amounts of those dollars, and they need to be taken out of that account and forwarded to our account. So, and I certainly wouldn't have expected you to find that in the minutes of the meeting, because none of that's in the minutes of the meeting. That's items that were just floating out there, whether in emails or,
I even checked email, but since I don't want to.
okay, and I'm sure, again, normally you always do a great job, and thank you. So, that's where I am on, as far as these minutes. So these minutes are, they either need to have this information added to them, or we need to not approve these at this time.
I don't believe we can add information to it
Okay, then,
unless it was talked about. You know what I mean? Like, if it was missed, and we later determined it was missed, we can add it, I believe, but I don't think we can add supplement information.
and again, I think if you were to look at the tape of the meeting, it was crystal clear. There was quite a few back and forth conversation relative to the replenishment of the funds versus what I thought was going to happen versus what Ms. Craver had stated. So I don't know how you want to handle that, but what we do know is there are funds that's supposed to be coming back to the town. Or, excuse me, back to our department.
Can you make an inquiry?
Okay.
So at this point, we're not going to, we're going to hold off voting on those?
Am I missing something here? I mean, the minutes
were
won't change.
What we had said. Whether what we had said was correct or not correct, doesn't change that these are the minutes, does it?
Well, the minutes are somewhat incomplete relative to the direct conversation between Ms. Craver and myself versus the funds, the intent of the funds, and also is the intent of the $250,000, which was to
If
go.
that doesn't impact the minutes from that meeting, Rob.
They're incomplete.
I think what Rob's saying is that they weren't in there. So if it's on video, why
It's
does,
more instead of doing the bullet point that we.
Right, and when-
But Rob just said to Norma, they weren't gonna be found in any minutes, even though he asked Norma to look for them there. It was all emails you researched. So I don't see how it pertains to be hanging up signing minutes. But that's your opinion.
Because the minutes, this here represents what happened in that meeting. And what happened in that meeting, all of it is not in writing yet.
Conversation.
There should be more
It
conversation.
didn't happen in the meeting.
No, it did happen in the meeting. What happened in the meeting was that the $250,000 was not intended to go towards the payment of a superintendent to set up a water system in our department. That was the point of opinion of what I always felt. That's the reason why we hired Kevin Pecos, because those funds were going to be paid for by ExxonMobil. And then Mr. Craver said, no, to the contrary. So that's when I suggested, yeah, Mr. Thank you.
okay, yeah, just,
So you're saying
Thank you.
then, at the last meeting, and I do recall what you were saying, you had the discussion with the town administrator about this, but that discussion is not reflected
Correct.
in these minutes. Okay.
so we'll hold the minutes. Norma will
Yeah.
reevaluate, look at the tape and both tapes, and go from there. Thank you.
Okay,
So hold those.
thanks, Paul.
Well, keep the pink folder.
Okay, let me get out of the thing first.
Is there anything else? Paul?
No, that's it, there are no more minutes or anything, so I'm.
Okay. All right, so moving on, Steve, why don't you go ahead?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Chair. 191 City Depot. The account has been varying widely with its use. The meter appears to be working. It was manually read last week. This meter was read last week. Current usage falls within the historical use. There seems to be a functional use of the time that the meter readings have been had. So I don't see anything further unless the board.
191 City Depot?
191 City Depot.
There's no sewage there, to my
Yes, there
knowledge.
191 is a sewer customer. 195 isn't, 191 is. They've got the cross-country that ties into,
Okay, like near Leone, that area?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, they do have a sewer, my apologies.
the SOP initial for the brewery, for the treatment plant, is with the commission. Do we have any comments back on that? I have included in your packet a current summary of usages. I put a color one in there that's red, which is, once it's filled in, if it is outside of the requirements that are in the very top line, it shows up in red. It's of concern, it has been of concern. We're still gathering information, but I would like to put some of this also in the SOP we needed for our protection relative to metals, relative to PODs. That line up top is what the brewery had said they were going to live with in their well outside. So I'm looking for comments and assistance, because I need to put something together, and I think we need to have something between the treatment plant and the brewery signed. The other thoughts that I would have is, I had given thoughts to surcharges. And surcharges, if we issue surcharges, I think we're saying that we're accepting what they're giving us. And I don't think we should be accepting metals on any permit to anybody. The plant does not have engineered machinery or equipment that says we're capable of removing metals. So it leaves another avenue of,
Now, what did we give them, about 6 months to kind of tinker with it?
2 years, didn't we?
No, well, we gave them 2 years at the BOD and stuff loading rate, but I believe we gave them like 3 months, 3 to 6 months to kind of tinker this and,
Thought it was 2 years, they're gonna get fined a surcharge of $1 a pound. And then after that 2 years, if we don't feel that they're working on a solution, then it was gonna go up to 3 or 4, whatever the normal rate is.
no, 2 years was total, but it was definitely, it was a 3-month. I believe we didn't surcharge them or charge them at all.
those articles are in the documents that I gave you. No, the ones that I sent to you, that you got last month for review, for
Okay.
comments, so that,
Do you remember off the top of your head,
I
Steve?
do not, sir.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Steve, next time you're going to bring this to us, or probably next meeting, could you add a line going across what our permit says as far as where we are relative to these
That,
items?
you mean the plant's permit?
The plant's
Not the permit to the brewery?
Not the contract that we have, or the understanding that we have with them.
Okay, I understand what you mean. Yes,
Because right now, the numbers that you have, where you've got maximum allowable contaminations or contaminants, these are levels that the engineer from the brewery suggested to us that they were going to be able to maintain.
that they would not exceed, right?
That they would not exceed. But these levels not necessarily, if we were going to put them against our permit or the EPA standards, some of these may not be in violation. Some, not all, some. Possible?
That's possible. But again, the concerns that I have is by allowing metals,
I don't-
the permit we sign for them, if something goes south.
I don't believe we allowed them to put metals
We
in.
didn't, that's the point.
Okay,
That's the, okay, so,
so what they need to do is, we got a track record here, we got 3 months. Now you need to kind of send them a little warning letter that you
Okay.
better start working on your metals.
okay. That's where I was going, that's what I'm looking for,
Yeah,
is to say, hey, stop giving us the medals.
yeah. These are areas of concern, right?
Correct. And also is do we need to rewrite the volume usage here? Now, is this volume usage just because of its opening week, opening month, and these volumes are going to level out and go down to the 7,500 that we were told? Or, and also that we are planning on billing as far as the privilege fee?
Okay, what I have uncovered, and I discovered it today looking at them, is I don't believe the numbers that the third and fourth columns are giving us. And I don't know where the issue is, but if you run the percentages, which I have, it starts off at 40 and 60% is coming to us of every gallon they take. As we get through the 3, 4, 5 down, the columns down, we get closer to 80 and 90%, and
This was, sorry.
the 80 and 90%, which means the brewery isn't selling beer. Because if they're getting 10,000 gallons in a day, to work with a round number, and 90% of it is coming to us at the plant, they're selling 1,000 gallons of beer, which they're selling more. Something is not making good sense.
So-
The-
What,
Can-
sorry.
I called
Go ahead.
I called McClure, and McClure told me they didn't believe the numbers either. They went back to the people that are controlling these meters, and they rechecked them, and they said, they're right. But I'm sorry, something's missing, something's wrong. I'm still trying to get hold of the brewery to find out, because originally the brewery told us that for every gallon of beer they made, they were drawing 4 gallons of water. So 1 gallon of the 4 gallons is beer. The other 3 gallons is waste, or it's trucked off from the plant in something. And I don't have that breakdown yet. I'm still struggling to try and get it. So
I thought part of the, I thought they were gonna put a flow meter on the
they
suicide.
have put 2 meters on there. They've got a meter on the domestic waste. They've got a meter on the manufacturing waste. And that's what these 2 columns are.
What kind of meters are they?
One's
No, are they inline meters or are they mag meters? Chris? Do you know what they are?
one is a mag meter, the other is a plume.
With the two?
I've got pictures I
It
didn't,
makes a difference. If it's got the 2 magnetic
yep.
tabs that go on the pipe, or if it's an inline, it's a piece of pipe.
Okay. I've got pictures, I'll send them to you tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Through you to Steve. Steve, where in this sheet is their water usage?
The water usage is actually the column that says sewer usage,
I don't think it's on here. I haven't seen it. I've yet to see it. Because you've got total sewage use, total discharge, then you get sewer usage, sanitary sewer, and then you get sewer usage gallon per day. And then you've got the total of those 2. So I think one is process and the other one is,
So which one is the manufacturing one, Steve? Is it the sanitary sewer or the sewer usage?
total gallons discharge, okay, it's 1, 2, 3, the 4th column in from the left-hand side.
that's
Total gallon.
potable water going
Yes.
into the,
Yes, yes.
Which is the addition of columns 2 and 3.
Right.
Well, the
Well, that's-
addition, minus what the beer is. So if you do the math, which I've done, there's the percentages I came up with, right here, as to where,
so your point earlier, Steve, is the math doesn't add up.
exactly.
No, that's,
Something's wrong.
Because it's 100%, there's nothing taken out of that.
But they're selling cases upon cases of fluid, okay, which the majority of it is water.
No, but wait a minute, you said columns 2 and 3, or, yeah, 2 and 3, don't add it, they do. Didn't you just say that?
This is the total gallons that they got in for the day. This plus this does not equal that.
Well, you're calling this column discharged.
This
This your
is,
maximum allowable, 7,500.
correct, but this is,
But now you're saying that's inflow of potable water?
this is drinking water they get from Southbridge. This one is. These, which are, this is gallons per day of sewer usage, this is gallons per day of process usage. These two together should not add to this.
Well, that does.
They-
I think, Steve, you should probably get back to us and just recheck these numbers, okay? As with the town of Southbridge and their water bill.
So would you take the whole and then just divide it up, like in between, because, 914, 921, divide it up?
Those are actually meter readings off the 2 meters.
Sewer meters.
So, yeah, sorry.
Correct,
Sewer
but
meters,
then,
correct.
to get your daily flow, you divided
Yes.
it by the number of
Yes.
days? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So if it says 50,000 gallons, you divide it by 5, 7,
Yes.
whatever, okay.
Yes.
Is this fourth column is the water meter?
Yes.
How's the water meter read? Did someone not convert the cubic feet to gallons? Keep them back in mind when you
Yeah.
redo it.
My point being is
So-
it's,
So, Steve, on this one, you do have the water usage.
yes,
It's the very first column,
yes.
and there is a little bit of a differential there. For instance, I'm looking at the bottom line, it said the total usage gallon per day was 11,476. And then you've got the sanitary sewer and the brewery sewer, which
Right.
is 6, which is 10,400 approximately. So what you're saying is 1,000 of that gallons went out in the beer can? That doesn't make sense. I think you need to recheck your readings there. Something's not in there
That's-
correctly.
I agree.
But it would be good to know as far as just general knowledge of what our permits are.
Permits, I can do that.
As far as those metals go. Thank you.
Continuing?
Yeah, I mean, if these numbers keep getting screwed up too, I'm sure they probably have
Yeah, please.
how much volume they produced,
Yeah.
So. Half quick way to find the difference here.
Okay, item 3, we're still waiting on high court parts. We've got one more part we're waiting to get in before we rebuild it. EQ pumps 2 and 3, they are out being rebuilt. They were released the last meeting, so we did that. A brief summary of Article 4. You've got a brief summary of Article 4. I didn't quite understand how the math was, so I had gone to Donna, and that's included in your packet, in case there was, questions there. The ceiling fan is fixed and functional. I thought I'd made that announcement. I had a question as to whether it was fixed. Yes, it is. Items sent between meetings were warrants, minutes, agenda, town bylaw for drain layers. The Exxon Mobil mixer tank prints are on the table. And Beta's update, there is a list within your packet that outlines what Beta can do over the next 5 months, and what we need in order to do a water rate study. My comments are that if there's any way to release Beta to do those items that are listed on that sheet, I think it should be done, but that's my opinion. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to go back to the general bylaw amendment that we're considering. Mr. Chairman, go back to the general bylaw that
Yep.
we're considering, and take a copy of it. What I'd like to, the whole point of this is that if you go down to, see where it says 100,000, 300,000, and it says 50,000?
Yep.
All right, I believe if in fact this is the intent of what we're trying to do here, and the intent is that if you are gonna be, in order to obtain a drain layers license in town, obviously, not obviously, but you've gotta present your insurance papers.
Yep,
You've got to do a $5,000 bond.
yep,
Okay, then what you've got to do is if you do not have a Charlton license, then what you've got to do is you've got to present documentation that you are a licensed installer in 3 other towns here in Massachusetts.
yep,
And if you are, then you will be issued a license from the Water and
Correct.
Sewer Department. If in fact you don't have those 3 licenses from other towns, then you would sit and take a test.
correct.
What our current bylaw says is that you also have to have 3 letters of recommendation from Massachusetts communities. So I believe this is how this thing should read, is after the $50,000 for property damage should be a comma, a bond, comma, a certified deposit or check for $5,000, period. And then it says for first-time applicants and drain layers of more than 2 consecutive years of non-renewal, then all of the rest gets crossed out, and it should say, in order to qualify for a drain layers license, an applicant must be a license holder in good standing from the town of Charlton or provide proof of current licenses from 3 other Massachusetts municipalities, which would be a contractor list from other Massachusetts cities only if stated specifically that the contractor is a licensed drain layer or take and pass a written exam at the town sewer plant. And I believe that has always been the intent, but after having the experience of reading this, and Norma had pulled it out, is the point in here of 3 letters of recommendation for a first-time applicant and drain layer of more than 2 consecutive years of excuse me, right, of 2 consecutive years of non-renewal must also be submitted from 3 other water and sewer departments, stating that the contractor has complied with all other bylaws, rules, and regulations. So that's what, when I read that, I says, boy, I don't ever remember being on the board here for these 9 years, that was ever applied to people who came in and applied for a drain layers license. So that's why I had suggested, we need to change this and take it out. In reading Mr. Cosgrove's notes, I think maybe he misunderstood what we were trying to get done here. But I know my intent is to see this thing so that a contractor can come in there, either take the test, provide the bond and all that, or he can provide 3 licenses from 3 other Massachusetts communities that are in standing and get his drain layers license. So I guess what I'd like to do to make this simple, I'd like to make a motion is that we no longer require 3 letters of recommendation for a first-time applicant in drain layers of more than 2 consecutive years of non-renewal.
Is it complied or compiled?
I've got most of the stuff I've already crossed out. I could have read it wrong.
It's supposed to be complied.
It says
It
compiled.
says compiled. Well, all right, stating that the contractor has it says compiled with all of the rules and regulations. So, again, I think that does not need to be in there. Or let me put it this way. And Gabe, you're in this business. Did you ever know, or had you known, that's part of the requirement? That you also need 3 letters of recommendation?
No, but, I mean, I've had it for
And
eons.
Steve, I mean, have you been collecting those ladders?
No.
No, because I don't think anyone ever understood it to be that
This
way.
didn't become aware to us until we did the investigatories
Right.
and saw it there. That's why I brought it to attention.
So that's why I'd like to make a motion, is that if we're gonna change this, that that the change should read without that statement.
I mean, I'm fine with taking out the letters of recommendation, but what me and Steve did uncover, which is basically, if you read the letter of the law, every year, if you didn't renew it on December, by December 31st, you technically have to take the test to show 3 towns
Actually,
again.
it's 2 years.
We just changed it. We added the 2-year part in there.
Correct.
So that was
Okay.
never in there. So
Okay.
basically, what we're saying now is, okay, people who renew this constantly,
Sure.
you just get it renewed. But if you don't, and there's big gaps or windows in place, if you haven't been here for 6 years or 8
Okay,
years,
right. Okay.
you gotta
That makes sense.
pull your licenses back up. Because technically, like I said, by the letter of the law, every year, if I came down in February, or, whoever, you came down in February, you had to show 3 other towns, this and that, instead of just renewing. So this way, you can just renew it.
We can do this piece by piece or with one motion? Because my motion is first of all, is to take the requirement of 3 letters of recommendation out. And then we can make another motion to add the first-time applicants and drain layers of more than 2 consecutive years of non-renewal.
So what's the cross out? Is that from Cosgrove?
Yes,
What am I reading here?
yes,
Okay. So the bold is what we changed,
yes,
correct?
yes. Now, the other thing we're trying to accomplish is our rules and regulations cannot supersede the bylaws of the town. So that's why this came here, because that has to be changed at a town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's going to be an article on the upcoming meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah, so as long as, if we just crossed out what Mr. Cosgrove already had here, and then the 3 letters of recommendation, it should be fine. Right?
But also, does it go on to explain that the letter of recommendation, what it says, must also be submitted from 3 other water and sewer departments stating the contractor?
No qualified drain lays.
Has,
Good stand-
Saying is, besides being a licensed operator there, or a licensed installer, you also need a letter from the department saying that whenever you work there, that you always complied with their bylaws and rules and regulations. Do we want to make it that stringent?
Qualified drain lays. Be licensed holder in good standing from the town shall provide proof of current licenses. 3 other. Where are you going with that? Because I'm just reading, current license from 3 other municipalities will accept contractor lists from other Massachusetts cities only if stated specifically that the contractor is a licensed drain layer.
I'm further up.
Where?
I'm right here. Is after we cross out the 3 letters of recommendation, comma, for first-time applicants in drain.
Mr.
layers.
Cosgrove had that all crossed out.
He didn't have it crossed out on this, what I
So-
received from Steve. I crossed it out myself.
Well, I got it here.
Packet.
What's that?
There's one in the packet, Rob. That's what we're working off of.
Okay, so when I get in the mail.
So it sounded like maybe it was there twice and Mr.
It was
Cosgrove.
there twice, right. And that's
You know what I mean? So it was there twice and,
All right, so I'm reacting to
yeah.
this.
So basically,
Well, it's in bold print here. In bold print, it says, must also submit, and this is in bold, from 3 other water and sewer departments stating the contractor has compiled with all of their bylaws, rules, and regulations. So that's beyond having a license from 3 communities. Not only do you need proof of a license, you need a letter stating that, and that's what it says right here, that that's what you did. Right there. You know,
Yeah, so you'd have to take that out.
you agree?
Yeah, because that's the same thing going back to the letters of recommendation.
Okay. All right,
So the applicant, Jacuzzi, second years and no renewal.
Steve, when's the drop dead date on having this?
It should be done for tomorrow morning submittal.
Okay.
And the word is not compiled, it should be complied.
It's-
You could probably just take that all off and just put current. Must also be submitted with 3 other water and sewer department current licenses.
That's why if you just read the green of how, I've got it highlighted here, just read the green.
For first-time applicants and drain layers of more than 2 consecutive years of non-renewal, must, no,
In order?
in order to qualify for drain layers license, the applicant must be a license holder in good standing from the town of Charlton, provide proof of current licenses from 3 other Massachusetts municipalities. Or pass a written exam at the town sewer plant. And then, obviously in there too was, will accept contractor list from the Massachusetts cities if state specified that the contractor is a licensed drain layer.
Just trying to keep it simple for the guys who go down there, that's all.
Most towns require 3 other towns. I mean, I find that excessive myself. I had an instance once where personally, I had done several systems in the town of Charlton. I did one in the town of Dudley. I went to Leicester, but I didn't have 3 towns. I only had 2 towns. To me, it ought to be more how many systems you've done. If you've done 10, whether it's in the same town or 2 different towns, you know, you're not rusty, you know, you're on top of it. But I think most towns do require 3 other towns, and I just find that a very
Some of this
difficult thing.
dictated from that law from '09, Molly's.
Oh, yeah.
The trench law there, yeah.
Trench law, yeah.
Some of this may be from that, Paul.
Standard practice is 3, but I agree with you, Bob. I
Yeah,
ran into
I'm
that
not talking
barrier out of
Drain
the
layers,
gate.
I'm talking septic system, but it's the same situation.
I do, but, you know, you gotta kind of find some neutrality in it, and, I mean, I'm in the business, and I think it's okay.
But you do most of your work in Charlton? I mean, that's the problem, a lot of people do most
I
of
do
the
about
work in the
20
town that they
towns.
live in.
I know, no, I agree with you 100%. However, though, some towns don't even offer a written exam. So at least at a bare minimum,
You got a choice to,
we're offering the written
Yeah.
exam, because I thought that was a big barrier many years ago for me, was who can I find a town? I had to go find towns that offered an exam, then take those to get the 3 to come back. So I'm pretty happy with it. I think it covers it.
Okay, can we say that we're gonna eliminate 1, 2, 3 full lines here? Starting with the 3.
I'm fine with what you highlighted. Not in the advent of moving this along.
Okay. All right, so make a motion that we alter the 165-13, license of drain layers, to what has been presented to us here, is we eliminate 3 letters of recommendation for the first-time applicants in drain layers of more than 2 consecutive years of non-renewal, must also be submitted from 3 other water and sewer departments stating the contractor has compiled with all of their bylaws, rules, and regulations. So that we're gonna eliminate.
Complied then.
Well, I don't think Jim is, Jim doesn't make mistakes with language, we just aren't used to it. No, we're gonna eliminate this, so it doesn't matter whether it's complied or completed or whatever. So then we'll then read, in order to qualify for a drains layers license. So we're crossing out those 1, 2, 3 full lines, including regulations in the 4th line. Got it, Steve? Norma?
May I? Can you
Sure.
get back to you?
Okay, all right, so, basically read the green except for what I just crossed out there.
Thank you.
You want to keep that?
Yeah, I'll give it
Got
back to
it.
you.
No, you can keep it
Okay.
for eternity. Still got a motion on the floor? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion is second, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 And then, Steve, can you get Beta to come to the next meeting?
I can. Well, the next meeting we've scheduled is I was gonna bring it up anyway, is the STM, Special Town Meeting. We
Okay.
have historically met before the meeting for whatever, so I had scheduled it. If you want to move that meeting, I can do that too, but our next meeting is Special Town Meeting. We meet before then.
And then the Monday before that's Columbus Day, I think, right?
But no, why do we need to meet before the meeting if we're going to get these things squared away?
Historically, when I set it up, the schedule,
Sure.
we have met prior to the special town meeting and the town meeting because we've had things. So
Okay.
we need to do that. If we don't need to do that, then I can change the 16th from special town meeting to a Tuesday or Wednesday, or the week thereafter. The week before is a holiday. The Monday before is a holiday, I believe.
I would schedule the meeting, and then if we don't need it, we don't need it, don't go, and just go to the town meeting.
Yeah, but isn't the question about Beta coming in?
Yeah, the question, Chris, what's your thoughts with, you got anything pressing down the pipeline that we can skip a meeting, or it needs to be?
No, I know that discussion has been put out there to have Beta in to talk about their water model, so there's some outstanding issues that need to be resolved.
They are prepared to come. I talked with them today, so, but, again, I said I was gonna mention it. The next meeting is the 16th, which is a special town meeting.
And we also got to, we need Veolia, because they were supposed to be
We put
here
them off,
tonight.
yes, correct.
So,
When's our normal first meeting of the month?
16th,
The 16th?
there's a holiday.
The normal date would have been what?
The
Without a
holiday, would have been the holiday, which is,
It's early, isn't it? The 4th or something like that, or the 8th of October? I think it's the 8th. Yeah, Columbus Day is really early this
would
year,
have been the
yeah,
9th.
it is.
the 9th.
Okay, 9th.
So,
9th is a holiday, so
We got
push
two-
it to the 16th, and then the next one is the 30th.
do you want to meet on the 2nd? And then meet, and then when would the following one be, Steve, the 3rd?
Next week, isn't it?
Gosh, you're
Yeah.
killing us.
Next week.
But,
Right there.
yeah, as long as, I see the 9th and I see the 16th, but
What do you guys want to do?
we need to get rolling here on this.
I mean, me personally, I'm okay with meeting the 2nd, taking a couple weeks off, and then meeting again on the 23rd.
That's a good idea.
Because you have Columbus Day, then the next one's town meeting.
Yep.
We can do a short meeting with just Chris, Bader, and Veolia.
June 23?
Alex, does that work with you?
Majority rule.
Whatever.
We have a lot of whatevers.
It makes sense, and that way there is, we're able to get the ball rolling here.
Okay.
Okay.
Post it for next Monday, Steve?
Yep. And I'll get an invite out to Beta. Chris is here, so he'll know, and then Veolia.
Chris, do you mind being here with Beta at the same time to kind of, because what we're trying to do is get them going, get them kind of with this rate study, put this package together,
Fine.
put a bow on it, ship it out the door? Thank you. Anything else? Steve? You already went through yours, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have a vote on it? I think we did, huh? We voted on that last motion?
Which one was the last motion?
The language.
The language.
We voted on that, right, Norma?
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Okay, all right.
It was a silent vote, right, Norma? It was a silent one, yeah.
All right. All set with Steve? Anything, any further discussion? Good? All right. So, Chris, you want to come up?
Good evening, Chris McClure, McClure Engineering. Steve Foy. Run up. No? I guess I'll give you a pass. There was one other discussion that was gonna, relative to verbiage on the warrant article, that's gonna play into my discussion here
Yep,
tonight, so.
go right to it. You talking about the zoning one?
Yes,
Okay.
just figured you could clear that one up while you guys are talking about language, and then if that's the case, then I can talk about my stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I just had recommended Steve, as they were just discussing the warrant article and language of the warrant article, just to, we could transition into the zoning item
Okay.
on that warrant, to get that taken care of.
Do we have it?
Yeah, no, let's see.
I don't see any of it. What do you need to change on it, Chris?
Well, it's Article 10, in the discussion, the zoning bylaw revision for the water system infrastructure.
Yep.
And it was presented through the discussion with town council and Robin and Kurt and Alan. So basically, it's been through the departments there. And Article 10, so you folks don't have a copy of it, or?
No.
Can't find it.
Okay. So basically, it's to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw, Town of Charlton as follows, to amend section 200-3.2, use regulations, part B, use regulations schedule, subsection 6, communications, transportation, and public utility uses by removing existing R and replacing to read as follow. R is gonna be water pump stations and appurtenances, and to place the letter Y designating by right usage under all districts. And if you would recall, that's basically how your sewer pump stations and appurtenances are written. At the time when your sewer pump stations were done, you really didn't have a water system. So
Yep.
this is just basically to make those revisions to allow water system infrastructure within the, all the zoning districts. And so that's the first one. And the second would be to amend section 200-3.2, part D, intensity of use schedule by amending footnote number 10 to read as follows. 10, minimum performance standards as detailed in the intensity of use schedule are hereby not applicable to water and sewer pump stations and appurtenances. So in that item, it did say not applicable to sewer pump stations and appurtenances. The addition was water and. So, so basically there are two, we consider changes that would allow for infrastructure to be placed without having to place them on lots that comply with your current zoning in those districts.
Okay.
It's consistent with the sewer.
Is that the only two?
Those are the only two, yes.
Because now what about, didn't the original thing, verbiage carry frontage or something?
It did, it actually designated those, but by using this minimum performance standards, and this has been checked through Alan, that would remove any of the setbacks, definitions of setbacks in that definition.
What is minimum performance standards? What does that categorize?
That
I'm just
categorizes
curious.
every setback, a frontage,
Area and setback.
area, and, yeah, your setbacks. So frontage, area, and setbacks. So that's pretty much all items that you'd have to comply with.
So with this change, there will be no compliance. There'll be nothing to comply to.
Right.
So it's like the wild, wild west.
Well, no,
Yeah.
for communications, transportation,
No,
and
no, only
public
for water
utility
and sewer.
uses.
Only for water and sewer.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Say what?
Well, so it's no zoning and no setbacks, no requirements.
Same as it was designated for the sewer pump stations, and you can see where your stations have been positioned in spots that are most useful for the system, but don't require your, typical setbacks.
Playing the devil's advocate here. Does that mean I can put a pump station within a foot of somebody's property?
Yep.
I just want to get it right before I go.
You gonna answer it?
Well, yeah, I'm assuming that, well, I guess I can't stop my
Would we?
statement.
No.
No, to be reasonable.
Would we? No, absolutely not. However, I just don't want to hear the rejection on the town floor because we didn't spell it out correctly.
Robin is here in the audience if she'd like to provide any insight on that, but basically, you're right, it may be, basically it was drafted to be similar to that of the sewer pump stations. And I think if you start trying to identify what those setbacks would be acceptable, then we could have a number of different ones,
I know.
yeah.
If I may, Chris, am I to understand that without this zoning change, there would need to be a request of the zoning board of appeals for frontage and frontage setbacks?
Yeah, and I will tell you that I am here tonight with a completed application for the ZBA. The only thing that's missing is the chairman's signature. So I do recommend that we go forth with both of these processes in case there's an issue on the town floor, but you're right.
I mean,
Just want to ask you, that's.
Well,
just for argument's sake,
Yes.
if you did a 10-foot setback with a 25-foot minimum frontage, I mean, wouldn't that suffice for everything? I'm just throwing this out here real quick. Or are we better off just leaving it back with the existing language?
I think well,
Because I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of it, you know what I mean, and they're all different. I just, it's all good intentions, it's just until the angry individual gets up there and the one who abuts it.
If I may, most towns have a similar bylaw.
Okay.
Is what reads there. Okay, so, in the spirit of getting this thing done, and I hear your double barrel shotgun here, which is, you should always do it if you have the option, is if one doesn't work, we'll go with the other.
Right.
So that's the safety of filing, which is late, with the ZBA, because based on notice and based on the next meeting of the ZBA, when would that happen, Chris? If we
I
were,
have to talk to Ms. Gelb about that, but.
They have a special scheduled for the 11th, I believe.
yeah, but you gotta have 2-week note, and you gotta be in the paper for a
It
couple of
was in the
weeks.
paper yesterday, I think.
What was in the paper?
Alan put the article in the paper.
Well, no, there's two,
We're talking about the
okay,
ZBA.
we're talking about two different things. Talking about the ZBA. If you're gonna have a zoning change, it has to be, we have to go to a planning board meeting as well, correct?
Right.
Yeah,
And that's, well,
and then the planning board makes a recommendation. Well, they don't have to, but again, you have to go to a
Well, we have to, actually, what would happen in this case would be that the building permit is submitted and the zoning enforcement officer denies it, and from there it goes to ZBA,
Right,
right?
Right.
Not through planning.
right,
So then we would just need to get on the.
Yeah, for the ZBA.
which- Yeah.
right. But you need the denial first before you can file with the
Now,
ZBA.
that building permit has been submitted to the building department, so we'd expect to get that. I'd expect to get that denial on fairly quick turnaround.
Right. So, but my question is what would be the expected turnaround? Today being the 25th of September. So let's say you get the denial, and let's say you get it on Wednesday, the 27th. Then you've got to do an application with the ZBA. It's got to be in the paper for 2 weeks. So, I mean, if they had a meeting on the 18th of October, you could be at that meeting, and then you got 21 days after that, so it looks like to have full approval, it would be somewhere in November. And if the zoning passes, I believe those articles need to be approved by the state, which can take 1 day. So then we would be, we could be all set to go the 17th or the 18th of October.
Right, so
So-
I still recommend, running
Yeah.
them through
Okay.
that way.
Yeah.
I mean, if we all think it's gonna go through, I'm fine with it, I just playing the devil's advocate here.
I would still do the other process. Again,
Yeah, we're
because-
gonna do both,
Yeah,
yeah. But is everybody good with the verbiage, because it's going up to get solidified for,
yeah, which pretty much gives water and sewer the cash blank on wherever a pump station is needed, they're able to put it in.
okay,
Because I remember Timber Valley, we had to go for a special permit for Timber Valley when we wanted to put the pump station in. We had, 20,000 square feet there.
yeah.
But because of the use, just wasn't allowed in that zone. Again, it takes more time, but this would certainly
okay,
be I guess, a good tool to have in our bag.
then I'm fine with that. Simple language is good to me. Alex, question?
Any other questions?
Oh. So, can we get him, make a motion, somebody? To,
Did you read that, Chris? What the bylaw? was
Oh, yes,
gonna be?
yeah, I can give you the language right here.
Okay. All right, so,
I don't think we need to read the whole thing, but if we just,
Just the Article
Cool.
10, numbers 1 and 2.
okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the article for a zoning revision of water system infrastructure, which is to amend section 200-3.2, use regulations, part B, use regulation, schedule subsection 6, communications, transportation, and public utilities, use to be removed, removing existing R and replacing to read the following: water pump stations and appurtenances, and place the letter Y designated by right usage under all districts. And 2, to amend section 200-3.2, part D, identify the, intensity of use schedule by amending footnote number 10 to read the following: 10 minimum performance standards as detailed in the intensity of use schedule are hereby not applicable to water and sewer pump stations and appurtenances, or take any action relative thereto. Sponsor, the planning board. And we're gonna change that sponsor, or we're gonna leave it the planning board? Because if Alan already put it in, then the planning board's the sponsor.
go ahead, Robin.
They are voting it, I think this week, so it's there, it's a kind of a placeholder. If they don't approve it, then we would just change it to Board of Selectmen and Water Sewer Commission on the floor. They just haven't had enough time, it's been,
Okay.
All right, so the motion would be that the water and sewer department endorse this plan as a possible sponsor, so if they fall out, would go in their place.
Yep.
So motion.
Motion and second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Norma, do you have a copy of this? Okay, great.
Okay. Then, thank you for that. If I could get Gabe your signature on this ZBA application. Do you mind if I take that,
You want this back? Sure.
please? Yes, thank you.
Do we need a motion for me to sign this?
No, what you're saying.
Make a motion, we authorize our chairman to sign on behalf of the Water Sewer Commission
I'll second
applying
that.
for the
CBA.
ZBA.
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So, great. Make sure all this goes back in order. All right, so basically that takes care of first few items on my list. We can talk about the tank mixers and the SCADA system. I have been informed by Charlie Tripp at Kleinfelder that you have all seen the approval of the tank mixers and SCADA system contract documents have been received by, approved by Southbridge Water Department, signed copies, probably down to the plan, I think I heard Steve say earlier. That those contract documents have gone out to bidders this week, and they'd expect to review the bids and award that work. They're hoping to get that work done, this construction season. So that would take care of that SCADA. If they do run into, really only underground work they need to do there is to bring some electrical lines up to the Mass Ave pump, Mass Ave tank, and then there would be work associated with the tanks themselves, so if they run into the winter season, they could still work on the actual SCADA control computer systems at the treatment plant, so.
It's not a passive system, right? It's not a passive mixing system?
They've spec'd out, no, not passive, I'm sorry, PAX, they're PAX mixers, actually, they
Okay.
have motors on them.
Yeah.
There is a PAX mixer up to a 750,000 gallon tank, and then these will also be, so there's electrical mixers.
Our 750 has a,
It does, yeah, it was
it doesn't have a
installed.
passive system?
It has, no, it has a motorized system. Let's see there.
Excuse me, Chris.
Sure.
Over on J. Hammond Road, there's 200,000 gallon tank. Does
Yeah.
that have a mixer?
No, it will, as part of this project,
Okay, and that tank is one orifice in and out?
yes.
Okay.
Again, we talked about that, that tank is a pre-stressed concrete tank. That any attachments to it have to be done by a specialty company approved by the tank manufacturer, and blah, blah, blah. But again, I was told that was going out to bid this week. So hopefully have a report relative to that. The pump station designs, from Overlook and Baytap Pump Station, they're still held up relative to the issues with the pressure variations in the water system. Let's see, Kleinfelder did submit a report dated September 14th. Technical memo relative to the second round of pressure testing, pressure logging that was done during the hydrant testing that Beta conducted, that second round. I don't know if you folks had a chance to take a look at that and really get down to the nitty-gritty. There's some recommendations at the tail end of that report, pages 7 of 8 and 8 of 8. And I intend to bring those up. We do have a technical meeting this week with the Southbridge Water Department, Kleinfelder, and McClure to review the Route 169 pump station design. But at that time, I intend to bring up this memo to see if we can get some assistance with the Southbridge Water Department to address some of the recommendations that are there, or at least have a discussion relative to them and see if they're on the same page relative to what, the findings or potential findings are there.
And that's in reference to the transients, right?
Yes, yes.
Chris, as far as bottom line, what are those recommendations?
Well, okay, so what they have determined is there was some discussion whether or not the pump station was the cause of this potential pressure fluctuations. The hydrant testing was done and the pressure loggers were installed, and the pump station was intentionally shut off during that period of time. So we can say that it isn't a direct result of the pump station. So the recommendations is really to, inspect each PRV in operation, confirm the pressure settings, functionality, other, data required to assess the effects of that water hammer. Check the PRV manufacturer's data and design criteria regarding the existing PRVs, sizes and configurations for the operation systems. Conduct field investigations to confirm the position status of any gate valves, particularly gate valves located in the isolated low-lying Charlton City area from the rest of the water system. And determine if there are any existing automatic air vacuum release valves on the water system, ensure they are functioning properly. Flush hydrants located at local high points to release any air entrained within the system. And evaluate the potential benefit of a third round of pressure recordings to assess potential reductions in the pressure fluctuations due to the implementation of preceding recommendations. And lastly, as I informed you folks back a few meetings ago, Southbridge has had changed their motor starters to VFDs at the Mass Ave pump station. They originally were just set to come on with maybe a 15-second or 30-second delay. They've currently had, put an occur in there to reprogram these to monitor the, the pressure and start up and slow down on a longer, in a longer delay period. We haven't done any additional testing to determine if that's helped, but again, based upon the fact that this report has showed that it isn't specifically due to the pump station starting and stopping, when we do see those, it just might reduce that fluctuation. Hoping to find some more, answers relative to that tomorrow, or at least discuss it tomorrow afternoon. Relative to that technical memo, or back at that, another memo, there was a September 8th memo that was provided by Beta relative to the water model status. Did you folks have a chance to take a look at that? I do have a copy. I didn't print out the Kleinfeld because it's 35 pages, but the Beta memo was just one page. And I wanted you to just see what is being proposed there. I did send this along to the Southbridge Water Department with the hopes that they would check on the gate valve in question, the intersection of Burlingame Road and Main Street. Remember, they were having some issues calibrating their model based upon the hydrant flow testing that's been conducted in town.
So North Main Street, isn't that this one?
Yes. Right, yeah, right there at the Burlingame Main Street intersection.
It seems like that correction would take less than 2 hours to go through and check all those valves. Because there's, depending on the valve, isn't there a certain amount of turns that open and close?
Yeah, I mean,
Why hasn't that been done? Or, not
Who's gonna do it?
Southbridge, the operator.
Okay.
yeah. So that discussion will happen tomorrow. If
What time's the meeting tomorrow?
It is
1 o'clock, 1 to 3.
Doesn't that loop back around?
It does.
So,
So it's
You
either
know.
there, whether it's there, there's a three-way. So whether there's more than one valve that is shut, or even if there was one valve that's shut, it still affect the way the water flows through that area.
okay.
There's 2 PRVs in that area, right?
Not here in Main Street. There are no PRVs.
I just think it's such a small loop.
It's
It
a double
wouldn't,
barrel line. Well, there's a double barrel line that comes up, from Worcester Road through. So there's a valve that's partially shut. There's an 8 and a 12 running side by each. What they're saying, they're not getting the flows that they would expect to see there. So they're saying that there might be a valve that's shut between, they were flowing at Burlingame, between Burlingame and,
And C value shouldn't come into effect, all this pipe is new enough that
yeah.
it shouldn't be even a consideration.
The second bulleted item is more of a concern for me, not a concern for me, but if that situation does exist, then it's been unbeknownst to Southbridge Water Department and us for a number of years. Don't believe that that's the case, but
Help me out here, see, Chris, thank you, Mr. Chairman, are they claiming that there's a possible connection with the higher pressure feed line that's causing this?
yeah, the high pressure transmission and the distribution
All
line.
right, but if the pump was off, the gravity back would create the same pressure, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And no one's pointing to the PRV that's halfway down Route 20 as being a culprit.
Well, that's basically what Kleinfeld was saying, just pull that, let's look at that PRV was originally designed for water coming in from Oxford system. Now it's being designed, now it's being used this other way. And actually during the hydrant flow test that Beta conducted, they noticed that the pressure in the Charlton City jumped 20 PSI and remained there. And Charlie Kleinfeld had made note of that to Southbridge Water Department. Why would that happen? They went out and inspected that PRV and it was stuck in the open position, whether it was a
Has
rock.
to be if it's allowing that to come across.
Yeah, so they found a rock in that, in the PRV, that had lodged the PRV open and allowed that system to. But again, with that PRV open, we're still seeing the fluctuation in the line.
Right. Right. Can I ask you is, again, ballpark, what we're talking with the new system is 2 pump stations. Bay Path automatically needs a pump station, there's no discussion, that's gonna happen.
Yes.
The one that's a coin toss right now is Masonic Home. So what's the value of that pump station?
Probably roughly 250,000, yeah.
Yeah, okay, $250,000. So, and that's gonna be on the, on the back of ExxonMobil, they're paying for that.
Yes.
All right, but whether it's Southbridge is the operator or if Charlton's the operator, then we're gonna have to take over the maintenance of that pump station. And who's gonna maintain that pump station?
In previous discussions, the commission has been vehemently against owning any pump stations and
Okay.
so that would be the owner, that the station is gonna go on their property and that would be the customer.
So that's Masonic Home, oh, okay, the customer.
I mean, that's been what I've been told, and that's the line that I've been holding.
And I'm going out on a limb here. There has been discussion that one of the maybe obvious problems within our system is the fact that we've got all these pipes all closed off, other than J. Hammond tank, which is 200,000 gallons. There's no real buffer for hammering to be buffered. And that if in fact we take our 785,000 gallon tank and turn that on, that we would have in a different location, in a higher location, maybe a higher location, the means to buffer the water to where we wouldn't get this almost like a reverberation,
Right.
because that's what's happening, at
Yes.
least it seems to happen.
Yep.
I know, I would agree to allow Masonic Home's current 100,000 gallon tank that they bring their well water into, use it for storage, and then they have their own in-house pump station. I would be in agreement to allow the public water to fill that atmospheric 100,000 gallon tank, have a means to shut it off when it gets full, and then let's wait and see what happens here, with the caveat that if it doesn't work, then the pump station needs to be added. But I think there's gotta be, because first of all, hydraulically, the numbers add up to where there's no pump station needed at Masonic Home
Not with these
relative to
transient
gravity.
stuff, Rob.
The what?
Not with the transient stuff going on in the main.
No, I hear, and that transient stuff that's happening, and again, I'm no expert, but it seems like, you know, we got some ghosts in the system that are causing this. And I think that the main culprit is the fact is that there's no ability for that water to buffer when it goes on, off, and especially with the PRV valve going down the hill. Because I think that would have the most effect.
I don't think systems should have to obtain another tank just for buffering. It
No,
doesn't
because,
make
no,
any logic.
well, we have a tank, and as soon as we hit the
But that's not what a
250.
tank's for. A tank is,
No, but a lot of times they end up serving 2 functions.
oh, okay.
So I'm
I-
hoping to have more,
Yeah.
more answers for you, the next one.
If you have different pressure zones, you can't just arbitrarily stuff tanks wherever you please to serve a purpose of that. And that's what you ultimately have, you have different pressure zones. So by putting another tank within the same pressure zone, isn't gonna resolve what you're trying to accomplish. Am I correct in the way I stated that, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, the situation with the system that you see now is that, in tanks, you know, to Rob's discussion, is the tanks will allow, an atmospheric tank will allow some of that pressure to burp out of the system. And specifically, you usually have tanks that are along your water system that are providing. In this case, we
A
have.
surge tank.
We just have this tank, Hamden Hill tank, which is, you know, a mile down, you know, and in the midst of the system, but not really directly affecting the system. So I do think you get some mitigation of those transients within that. It's just tough to see until you actually put that, it's unfortunately, because you just can't put a 750,000 gallon tank on to see if it's gonna mitigate your problem. But that may be part of the
So
solution.
if you're doing a 6-hour test, why couldn't you turn that tank on to fill it? All right, let it stay on for 2-3 hours, then do your test.
We could potentially.
Because it's not a disinfected.
No, you're not gonna use the water. What you're gonna do is you're only gonna fill it, it's only gonna go in one way. Then you're gonna shut it off, relieve it, and throw the water
Why,
away.
the tank has 2 pipes to it?
No, I don't.
It has
know.
1 pipe.
No, it has an exit, it has an exit. It
That
has
comes
an
out of the
exit.
same pipe.
Correct, and it goes in, and when you're done filling it, you shut the feed off, and then you open up the feed that allows it to drain, which is on the west side of the
If the
tank.
valve's closed, then it
Yeah.
doesn't,
It's gonna defeat the purpose,
it's
Rob.
gonna defeat the purpose of
The
buffer.
tank's not disinfected, you can't do it.
You know what I'm saying?
No, the water's going one way. The water goes up that driveway, and it goes to the tank. All right, then there is a connection before the pipe goes into the tank that goes west, and there's another valve there, so if you want to drain the tank. How many times we drain that tank? 3 times? At least 2. Okay, so what happens is, you're gonna do the test, you open up the valve, because the water's not gonna come backwards because of the pressure, it's only gonna go up. You got 55 feet of water to fill there. So what happens is, you leave it open for 2-3 hours to settle everything out, do your tests, after you do your test, shut the water feed off, and then open up the exit. To me, it seems simple, I don't know, maybe I'm just too simple.
Yeah, it is.
It is,
I
yeah.
can certainly have a discussion with the operator and see what he says. He kicks me out of there.
Smarter than a 5th grader, yeah.
So this is the agenda for my, for the meeting tomorrow, just so you understand what's going on. If you have any other items that, as I said, I will have discussion relative to, these other items that are happening and exercising the valve and whatnot. But really, this was, the meeting is for the, Route 169 booster pump station design. We have had this, they have been down there to do some soil testing, some geotech borings. The commission has taken a look at the preliminary design, the aesthetics of the building. I provided comments, they have incorporated those in, you will see those. Steve does have a copy of the building plans relative to it, the pitch of the roof's a little bit higher, there's a window in front, I mean, a full window, ventilation and that type of thing, so. Again, this will allow Quanto to advance the design on that pump station so that those documents get finalized and we get approval to put that out to bid.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't mean to drill down, but they plan on putting a CL-17 or anything on board at that location
Here,
for monitoring example?
I don't know if there's actually gonna be a monitoring thing. They're leaving room in that building for chemical augmentation, but having an analyzer, and we have designed a UIC for that as well,
Right.
which would accept that waste. Having an analyzer there, probably not a bad idea.
It's a in-point,
Yeah,
a beginning point in the system.
yeah.
And that can just be done right through the piping in-house. Are you gonna go over the plans, the 11 by 17 at all?
Tomorrow, yeah, those
What size is the service to the property?
size of service to the property would be a 2-inch.
Why
because
2?
it's a commercial property. And they require, Southbridge Water Department requires any commercial property serve a 2-inch copper line.
So that parcel there is a
Yes,
temporary easement, I'm assuming that's a construction easement, it's at .07 acres?
yes, yep. To the north of the lot, number 1 is gonna be staging,
Yeah.
aerials, parking.
So that'll go back to the first parcel.
That'll go back to the first parcel.
How big is that parcel that the existing structures are on?
It's about 11,000 square feet, I think, after we took the.
No, that's for the pump station.
Oh, yes.
No, where the existing structure is, Chris.
Oh, the existing structure?
Yeah.
Remaining 153,000 square feet, 163,000.
No? This is subdivided, is it not, into two different lots?
Actually, no, they described in the deed as 2 separate lots, but they were combined as.
Oh, so that 3.75 acres is for the total parcel.
It's for the total parcel, yeah.
What's the division line for?
Because there were two separate.
Is it subdividable? The way it's zoned?
The way it's zoned, it is, there's enough frontage there and enough land area there that they could potentially subdivide it, whether or not, there's enough frontage and land area there that they could subdivide it.
Okay. And what main is that 2-inch coming off of?
It's coming off the suction to the pump station, the suction line to the pump station.
Okay.
It can't be fed off the discharge to the pump station because of the pressures that are gonna be.
Southbridge has that silly rule.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, that'll be fed off of that. It's probably not the 16, probably the 8 coming in, but it's just a matter of where Kleinfeld decides to locate that. It's gotta be before, just so we get the shut off within the permanent easement that the town has for the pump station, and the rest of it can go through the drive access that easement to be.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, if they connect the second built building from the first being the larger built building, they're probably going to be flirting with the 35-pound requirement rule.
Yes.
So I guess that's not the water operator's responsibility after the first building on the same parcel.
Well, no, they'll be made,
Doesn't Southbridge have a stipulation, one service per one?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's
then
what
they've been served with one
service.
service.
No, one service per one property, not one building.
That's one parcel.
It's one parcel with 2 buildings on it.
Yeah, it's one service per parcel.
One service per parcel,
Okay,
and then the larger building will get the service, the 2-inch,
and then they can subdivide it right off that line.
and then, right, but when it goes off that line, again, what's questionable is whether or not it's going to be 35 pounds.
No, the line, the 2-inch that feeds the property, Rob.
You're not hearing me. The
No,
2
I'm
inches,
hearing you perfectly.
the 2-inch is going to feed,
The big existing
correct,
dwelling, yeah.
correct. So now if they want to take the public water,
They can come off that 2-inch.
come off that 2-inch.
It's one service per one
Right,
parcel of land.
And when that line is extended up elevation to that house, they're going to be flirting with the 35-pound problem. But I think we've just, through discussion, answered the own question, is Southbridge/operator won't care, because that's not within their domain.
They have reviewed it, they will say that they, just like they do with any application, they will make a note on there that it's likely that there may be, pressure issues and we need
They
to
can put a
address
booster
those.
pump in it.
Oh, no, that's right.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Typically, that's what Steve, I think for every application that comes through that, through Southbridge, the approval, it gets a note on there that must be able to, you may have issues or you must meet 35 PSI, require that.
It doesn't meet 35 PSI at the farthest, yes.
Okay, so if there is any, if there's anything else that you'd like me to bring up at the meeting, I'd be happy to do so. Other than that, most of my other agenda items were just, I needed to get on Steve's agenda, so I just had him copy my other item and push it over in case there was anything needed to be discussed, but I pretty much exhausted my topics for tonight.
Chris, where in your list here are you going to talk about the pressure problems?
Findings, it's number 2.
Number 2, findings, okay, so that's where you're going to talk about them?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. And Chris, how are you going to get paid for this work? Is this a contract you have with us?
Yes, yeah.
Is it a funded,
It is, yes, yeah.
reimbursable?
Yeah, I don't know the details of it, but I do know it's funded, so, assuming that everything is squared away. I get, approvals through, and discussion with Robin relative to, how it needs to get billed and whatnot, so.
Okay.
May I be excused?
May. Thank you. See you next week.
The second?
Do you want to talk about Gould Road with him or not? No? I know it's not on the agenda, but it's kind of out of nowhere.
What is it?
MTBE.
Yes.
Is this new information?
Why don't we put it on for next week,
Okay,
right? Is it-
fine.
Next week agenda,
Is Chris going to be here next week?
Chris, you gonna be here next week?
He just said yes.
October 2nd. It's not next week already, is it?
Nope.
What was the address? Oh, what was it? Gould Road?
Yeah.
Gould Road, how do you want to categorize it?
Contaminated well?
Yeah, sure. Possible contamination. So we had some private, Chris, we had some private homeowners do their own sampling on Gould Road and get some hits. So, just to give you a heads up. Is the settlement with the Bement Center public record or no? Is that between the two parties?
I don't know anything about it.
Didn't Exxon settle with the
From what I understand, yes.
St. Mary's place? That's not public record or DEP stuff or anything, right? Do they have to notify DEP or anything like that?
I don't know.
Okay. No, we're good. Thanks, Chris. See you next week. All right.
Mr. Chairman, Steve had in his packet, this is on, there's a letter, or is that a statement here, based on 19 and 21 Worcester Road. And it's about two buildings on one parcel. Steve, this,
I gave that for your information, I figured I would put it on the schedule for next week, or the next meeting.
One's on Title V and one's on media.
well, that's what I can't understand here, but does everyone have a copy of this? Because it says, the addresses of 19 and 21 Worcester Road, because I'd gotten a phone call by the owner. it says 21 is on a metered sewer, and 19 is on Title V. Now, this is property that's down the end of Power Station Road and Route 20. So there's a house with 2 or 3 units in it, and then there's a small commercial building. And Steve, it says both buildings are connected to sewer, both buildings are connected to one water supply, a well. So what you've got here is you've got a metered private water property that's on a, that's metered by, and the purpose of the meter is there is to meter water usage for sewage. And jump in, Steve, if I've got this mistaken. So what has happened is, Steve has asked our plumbing inspector to go down and verify this, and that's what
Correct.
he's verifying. So Peter went down, he's verified that he confirms that water comes from the well,
Comes from the big house.
and then from the well it goes into the big house. Then
Yes.
from the, then as it goes into the big house, there's a meter. And that meter is the meter that meters the water that's coming into the house from the well to be metered for the purpose of sewage
Yes.
charges.
Yes.
Did he also confirm that there is a well line that goes from the house?
Big house,
After the meter to the commercial building?
yes.
Okay, so this is the point is if in fact you have 2 buildings and you've got one water source and the water source is being metered, and that metered water both goes to the house and then goes to the building, and both are going into the sewage.
You should only be paying one bill, is that what you're getting at?
That's exactly what I'm getting, yeah, that's the position of the homeowner, or the property owner.
Yeah, if the meter's off the inlet side or on the,
Right, and Steve, Peter confirmed because one of
Yes,
the
he did, yeah.
one of the questions out there was, is there a supply of water coming from a well that then tees off before it gets to the house, sends it over to the smaller building and circumventing the meter? So Peter has confirmed that's not happening.
Correct.
So, the conclusion here is, what is the conclusion?
The conclusion I have is the owner needs to apply for a metered billing. If he applies for a metered billing, and there is 6 or 7, 4 that I'm sure of, similar circumstances where this has happened, and this is how we've treated it. If he applies for metered billing, which he's had the offer on the table for a while, he did finally go to the big house, I think November of 16, then we can do something so he gets one bill. We can,
Okay, but I thought that when the sewer was connected to this home, that it was either Title V
It
or
was.
metered. So what he did was he chose metered.
Title V.
No, I thought there's a meter in the building. Why is there a meter there? He doesn't have town water.
We put,
Does your town
which
sewer-
building are we talking about? The big house or?
The big house, only
Okay.
the big house.
That is metered, there is a meter in that.
Okay,
And
so
we,
then-
we put the meter in November of 16.
November 16. Okay, and prior to that, he was
He
paying
was-
Title V.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
so November of
16.
2000, oh, November,
2016, yes.
okay. So he
that
needs,
was
an-
only 8, 9 months ago.
Correct.
10 months ago.
Correct.
so he needs an
Okay.
abatement of the Title V.
I now understand where you're coming from.
Okay.
That there was because there's a Title V bill on the large building, and there's a Title V billing on the small building.
But Title V, he squared away on the big building when he went to meter. That's squared away, so he's on.
Right, but never squared away on a
Correct.
small building,
Correct.
because what he needs to do is claim that building on the same meter, all right, which he's already paid for, so that's already wiped off the table. So the only question would be, where the cloud is prior to November, is what was that use? And what was the Title V billing for that?
Until the, my opinion, from looking at the other cases, until the owner comes in and files an application for metered billing, he's on Title V, the Title V is owed to the town, he needs to pay that. So before we would go to metered billing on that, then he would have to square up with the town unless
Yeah.
you authorize something else. But the other circumstances that I've advertised, this is how we did that to them.
Okay.
When they went to metered billing from the Title V, from that point forward, but from there backwards,
Wouldn't you have to tee in another meter for the other building?
It's using the same water source, so,
So what's that have to do with it?
because his water's being metered. You want to meter it twice, or you want to do a subtraction?
and we actually had that same circumstance with 65 Old Worcester Road, 44 Stafford Street, where 65 Old Worcester Road was paying for water that was going into Stafford Street. The line comes around and went into 65 Worcester Road, Route 20. And they did that for several years. And we
I mean,
after we-
it's fine as long as it's the same owner, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's
They're
one
one
piece
piece
of
of
property with
Yeah,
multiple
well, that's what I
buildings.
mean, one piece of property.
65 and 44 Stafford Street were joined at the hip. So going forward on 19 and 21, my suggestion is that he file for metered billing on building 19. From that day forward, he will, it'll be, we'll just, we did it also with Teddy's on a job on one of his two buildings over there, one of the 3 or 4 buildings he had. It's erased and will eliminate the account from the, or mothball, or inactivate the account, so that
So you'll retroactive it from the November,
won't be retroactive, it'll be from the date that he
Applies.
gives us an application to go to metered billing. Anything prior to that, he's gonna have to square up with the town, in my opinion.
now, is
Or
it,
try to file an abatement. That should be
That's
one
always an
of the-
option,
so
sure.
now, the only other, back to the devil's advocate, was he under the impression, when he applied for the meter, that it was expunging both?
No,
Okay?
But the water that went through that medium was servicing both buildings.
Correct. I just want to make.
It's not an easy
no,
one.
No.
he actually put a meter on that commercial building, and he was charging the resident for sewer and water based on what went
So
through
he's
that
got a
meter.
sub-meter.
Yeah, it's I didn't see the meter, Peter did, and he said the meter's,
He might have had that for his tenant.
well, that's exactly what I said. He had it for his tenant,
Yeah.
so he could bill the tenant for
Right.
sewer and water use off the main well.
All right, so he was well aware, well versed, all right, that's fine.
We almost done?
Real quick, Steve, what was this other one I happened to see, but it wasn't in your report about a backup?
Oh, that's the one on,
221,
Yeah. So, what was the cause of the backup? Was it in our main, or?
it was inside the house.
I know that.
There was, from what I'm gathering, there was a backup in the lateral inside the house. This also happened to him in 2012.
So, I'm under the impression, and maybe you can back this up with some rules, every town I work in, they're responsible for the main. Everything the homeowner owns from the house out to the main. So if it backs up in your lateral, it's on you. And it backs up in your house. We have no,
Unless the main's backed up.
yeah, exactly.
and what happens if the backflow preventer out in the street fails?
I've seen
It's on
them,
the lateral, it's the homeowner's responsibility.
It's a
In-
pretty tough piece of equipment to service.
what,
The backflow preventer.
The check
on
valve?
the lateral, check valve, whatever you want to call it.
would be pressure then?
Yeah, there's a pressure system down there.
So then his own
Right.
pump backed up.
If I'm having a discussion
Right.
with the property owner is that he had it coming back in from the street,
How does he know that?
because it was there.
If he was adding water to the system, being the tank on property, it would mimic that by coming up through the, and looking at one of the pictures that came up through
Yeah,
the washing machine drain, it would
Yeah.
mimic being under pressure because you've
because he's
created.
pumping it, and it's not going anywhere.
Right, and
Yeah, yeah.
so,
All I know is,
But being as everybody's allowed all these
One story.
2-inch force mains and there's no inspection allowed on them, there's no way to tell if the main was backed up.
They're all inspected.
You can't pop a manhole and look at it, kid.
That I agree with, but.
Well, that's what I'm referring to.
The other issues that are involved here is this happened at that house in 2012. The owner has rented the apartment. The tenant had the situation. He called the plumber. The plumber came over, did his situation, took the pump out, forgot to close the valve that's on the wet well.
nice.
So the plumber,
That's this year or 2012?
No, well, I don't know what happened in 12. It just, it backed up. You can see the pictures on the wall because we were actually in there.
is this all that backed up? What I'm seeing here?
That's 2012.
Okay,
What about,
I don't have any pictures for 2000. We were never in the house
okay.
for this time. We had conflicting information. We were told that everything was fine. We weren't needed. After we were needed, then we weren't needed. They
Well,
made an agreement with the owner, with the tenant, that no water would be run until the next morning. We would be back then. And we never went in the house. Everything was supposedly clear. They replaced the grinder pump. That grinder pump had been put in new in 2014. What had happened was is the low float was stuck. It burned the motor out because it wouldn't shut off, so we replaced the motor.
okay. Just refresh my memory. So that's the first time or the second time?
Second time.
And the second time was just recent or back in
Second time was
2012?
2012. This one happened in July. We replaced that
Okay.
motor, and I've got the date on it. It was just within the past couple of weeks. This happened, yeah, last couple of weeks.
So,
I do not see any liability to the sewer department.
yeah,
My findings, your decision.
I'm not seeing any either.
good enough?
You know, first comes to first, call the sewer department. Tell all my customers that.
I don't know why they didn't call it. Well, I surmise, because it happened when the owner was there, whatever the relationship was between tenant and owner, something happened. The tenant probably tried to, he saw water, saw a plumber, because it actually went through the police department. The police department is who actually called us, and the plumber called us.
Afterwards, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
so when did we get notified? That night or the next day?
We were notified on Sunday.
Okay,
We had discussion with the owner, or the tenant at the time, and they agreed to not run any water, and they'd be good until Monday morning. So Monday morning, they were over there first thing. They replaced the pump because the pump was burned out with a new pump.
so what'd they do, have a pump truck come suck it out or something, and then,
Nope. I don't know what they did, but I saw the bill come in that I attached from the cleaning company, and I said, well, before I authorized that, I was gonna take it before the commission, so that's why it's here.
So it's a claim from the property owner?
I think where the owner is at this point, he was holding off filing a claim with the insurance company until he got a determination from us. So, based on this determination, I will call him, send him an email, or send him a letter, and say, I have to review this, and this. Be polite, and just like I am, and say that there's a responsibility here based on the tenant who didn't know what protocol was. Actually, the plumber said that he didn't have any idea to know that there was a grinder pump there, or what its use was, or whose responsibility it was. There was confusion, for sure.
so the other thing is, did anybody notice an alarm? Because the only thing we would have fault on is if an alarm didn't go off. And I don't even know if we have fault on that.
I doubt those systems have a
Yeah, they do.
low wet well.
Yes.
No, they have a high water alarm.
High water and low water.
So, because there's a panel outside mounted on your house.
Yeah.
There's a big red light and a siren and everything. So, because normally that kind of indicates the homeowners is a problem, and that should have given reserve before the house backed up. So, what I'm getting at is probably the house backed up first, or something malfunctioned in that, the alarm didn't go off. So,
Gotta get more information, I guess. What did, and our people went down and just said it was, the pump was bad and changed the pump.
The plumber pulled the pump out, said it was broken, not working, left it out, told us that they had left the pump out. When we got there and looked at it, discovered that the handle of there's a red handle on the top of the tank that they turn on and off, depending on where the pump is. That handle was still left in the open position, so obviously when he pulled the pump out, anything that was in the line would feed gravity into that wet well.
Now, the check valve on the lateral was working.
yeah, it's only the lateral drain back.
Right.
Right. But, it could be 20 feet, could be 200, it could be 1,000.
No, it's, again, the house is fairly close to the road. It's on the lake. And I think it's on, in fact,
pretty steep.
the line is steep, but the line is on the house side of the street.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, number one, nobody should be touching the equipment other than the sewer
Correct.
department,
Correct.
Yep.
first and foremost, and, I have a funny feeling that it would've came out in other spots before his house. So, that's my 2 cents.
You mean if there's a failure of the backflow?
Failure of the
Okay.
pump or whatever,
Yeah, okay.
so. There's vents on those, there's covers, there's loose, it's, so. All right, meeting adjourned.
Do you agree with the results on 127 Osgood?
Steve, I haven't even looked at it yet,
All right.
so,
One thing that should be looked at is the R&M budget is gone, as you and I discussed. I did use what authority I had to issue a letter allowing them to spend another $2,000. But we still have bills coming in from August, September, we still have October to go through. They have expended $30,000 in their R&M account.
And why have they done that? Are they not good
I've
managers?
asked for an Excel spreadsheet, which I expect I'll have, but at this point,
unless
what do
they're
I do?
putting the high core or some of the other stuff in that budget.
No, that R&M is for ice and gas for the lawnmower and weed
I
whacker.
won't have complete details until I have the Excel spreadsheet, which they're working.
And how many more months are left?
Well, the letter that I wrote covered the expenses that were at the end of July. I've got August, September, and October. I don't know what those are coming in, but I've got no money to give them, unless you authorize me to do so.
I thought they were getting either
$2,500 a month.
$2,500 a month.
Correct.
So how could they spend more than what they were getting?
Because they had things to fix. So that, and we have done this before, sir. That's why we have the reckoning with the contract operations. Their year is up the end of October.
Yeah, because Jody, Woodland and Curran, they'd spend more, but we just broke it up over the
Correct.
year, right?
Correct.
So sometimes they'd have a month, they'd spend $10,000.
Right,
Well, not-
but it would balance out,
Correct.
Well,
because they knew they had a budget.
we always paid them, we haven't, in the past 5 or 6 years, we haven't gotten money back from them, and we haven't had a surplus. We've always ended up writing
No,
them
that
a
was,
check.
it's always gone. It's always gone.
Can you, for next meeting,
But this is beyond
get the
good.
breakdown from Veolia?
I would think that by then, I will have a breakdown.
Okay,
But what do I do in the interim? The 2,000 that I authorized is gone to pay bills that we had. You and I talked about that. So,
I think they'll be fine for a week,
yeah, that's right. Next week, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So just, tell them the faster they can clear it, the faster we can make sure everything's fine and get them more money, so,
Okay.
fair enough?
Yep, yep.
You need something?
I might have missed it, but did you vote and approve the warrant article regarding the budget amendment?
I don't
That's the
think-
$11,000? We didn't vote on that.
I don't think we
Is
did.
that the one you mean, the 11,000? No, we didn't.
The board of selectmen will be approving all the warrants and language tomorrow night, so I'm just trying to make sure everybody's all on the same page. and there are no
If you-
surprises coming in.
Steve, do you know what this is about?
I didn't. I got a detailed explanation from Joan because I was confused.
From Joan? Joan's not here anymore.
Joan, Donna. Thank you.
No, okay.
Donna.
I don't understand here, that for fiscal year 2017, retained earnings was certified as $11,935?
That's for 18. That's why I sent exactly what she had.
This
because
retained earnings for our entire department, or is that for the coffee cup fund?
For water.
Oh, for water.
For water. It was 17,246, which was in the budget. It was found and discovered by DOR. They made us change it. We were taking money from the Exxon Mobil Fund, which we couldn't do. They told us to stop, we had to change it. They gave us a slap in the hand and granted us an option to fix it. The option to fix it was what Donna had done and put in the
Steve, you looking for this?
Yes,
Yeah, if you borrow mine for, oh, Norma's got one. Thanks.
thank you. This is what came back from Donna today, and I can read it. Retained earnings were certified to $11,935, so no more than that amount would be allowed to be used for FY18, the Water Department budget. The vote is considered invalid by DOR and must be revoted so that no more than $11,935 would come from retained earnings in FY17. And what we had was 17,000 and odd.
No, what was written down was 17,000?
That was what was on the budget.
Okay,
And it was sent through to be certified, and it was found in error. So the 17,000, all we can apply is $11,935. The variance of the offset, assuming the certification from DOR obtained prior to the town meeting. So they're still looking for the certification of certified funds prior to October 16th, so that this in fact works. In addition, there was a discussion with DOR about $3,536 stated the source of Exxon's interconnection. After researching several years, this fund no longer has funds and has been coming out of, what's been happening has been coming out of retained earnings. When there was plenty of retained earnings money, it was unnoticed. However, with an over-appropriation being made for retained earnings, this source was scrutinized, and we were told that it has been coming out of the retained earnings and that it must be added to the amount we thought we were short. So the 2018. We're also told that going forward, Exxon interconnection line needs to be eliminated from the source. So the breakdown is as listed. $11,935, the amount of retained earnings of $17,246, subtracting the deficit of $53,11, the amount from Exxon Mobil interconnection was another $3,536, which wasn't available. The amount that has to be made up is $8,847. That's Article 4 of the warrant.
So how it's being made up is the $8,847 is being subtracted from the 17,246?
From 18, isn't it? You're looking for motion to take $8,847 from the fiscal year 18 return earnings,
Yes.
not 17, so.
You see, they looked into 18 because 17 is gone. The vote that we made in 17 at the May meeting was invalid because it was overdrawing. So it's the vote that we did, the budget that we passed in May that we need to change. In May was the 18 budget, I believe.
With all these smoke and mirrors, is this costing us money? Are we losing money here? Are we gaining money? What's happening here?
We're transferring money out of 18 to cover the 17.
Because 17 was in deficit?
Yes. Because we used 17,000 and change, 17,246, which was a number we couldn't use. We didn't have it.
How about I make a motion to take $8,847 out of fiscal year 18 return earnings.
Yes.
Second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Or any discussion real quick?
Yeah, I just don't understand it, but I guess,
Aren't these the same numbers that the guy who did the rate study gave us?
I'm sorry?
I don't remember. I wasn't here.
No? Okay.
Same numbers as what?
The rate study.
Yeah, no, this, the rate study.
He
is
did
for
sewer.
This is water.
He
No,
didn't
this
do,
is just water?
This is
Water, yeah.
okay, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
No.
Passes.
Passes. Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I got one question,
Oh,
is,
come on,
is, no, just be quick, is,
Do it quick, Rob.
no, do we need to be writing a letter to our administrator, to the selectmen in requesting the funds that we paid out for Kevin Pecos? In those funds, those replacement funds that have come out of the $250,000 out of the ExxonMobil settlement? Because that's will definitely affect our retained earnings to the tune of about $80,000.
Correct. Steve's gonna look into it, and
Okay, good.
if we have to, then, we'll figure out that chain of custody. Right? Get that from before?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion adjourned.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?